What happened? What are you doing in the middle of the funeral?
This is bad. Look at this note. I ran out of the funeral home in a panic during my mother-in-law's funeral. My husband, startled, chased after me. I showed my husband the note I found in my mother-in-law's hand, and he was surprised too. We would soon call the police. My mother-in-law and I had been close, as if we were a real mother and daughter, before my husband and I got married. My mother-in-law was very special to me, because I had lost both of my parents. I'm very happy that I married my husband, whom I love, but I'm also very happy that I became accustomed to my mother-in-law. Then, my mother-in-law suddenly passed away. She fell from a balcony. During her funeral, I held her hand in the coffin and found a note with the most frightening thing written on it. I am Jane, and I'm 30 years old, and I have an office job. My husband Mike is 2 years older than me and works in sales. We were both students in the music club at the same university. We only talked occasionally during our college days because we both were in relationships. My husband is a very good singer and writes wonderful songs that cheer us up when we listen to them. The band in which my husband sang was the most popular in the music club, and I think it was at the level where they could have gone pro. I remember that I looked up to my husband and felt a little sad when I heard that he was going to quit the band and get a regular job after graduation. A few years after graduating from college, I went to a live music club to see a band I liked and happened to run into him again. We were both there alone, and we had a lot to talk about after a long time, so we ended up having dinner together after the show. We had dinner together after the concert, and there was no end to our conversation, so we decided to go to karaoke. Mike's singing voice was as beautiful as it had been back then. I was happy to know that he was continuing to play in a band while working. After that day, I often went to live concerts and dinners with Mike. No matter how many times we went, we always had a lot to talk about, and before we knew it, it would already be past midnight. We had known each other for a long time, and we liked the same bands, but I didn't think we would have such a good rapport. Mike seems to feel the same way, and we started dating a few months after we met again. After I started dating him, I was so happy every day. Of course, I enjoyed seeing Mike every day, but I also enjoyed going to the occasional live concert where his band performed. Mike introduced me to his mother, who had come to see him perform for the first time of many times. "Hello, I'm Jane, Mike's girlfriend." I nervously introduced myself. "You don't have to be so nervous. I've always been sad being at a concert alone. I'm glad you're here," my mother-in-law said and shook my hand. My mother-in-law had a wonderful smile and looked so young that I couldn't believe she had given birth to Mike. She didn't look out of place in a live music club full of young people. Afterwards, we had a lot of fun talking about today's concert. Although our age gap was quite large, I felt as if I was talking to someone my own age, and we quickly became friends in just one day. We exchanged contact information that day, and my mother-in-law and I started going to see Mike's live concert together. We sometimes had dinner before or after the concert, and I looked forward to that because she knew many good restaurants. My mother-in-law would smile at me as I ate deliciously. Even if I left Mike, I was so fond of my mother-in-law that I wanted to continue my relationship with her. 3 years later, we got married. I was so surprised and happy that I couldn't stop crying when my husband proposed to me from the stage during one of his concerts. I looked at my mother-in-law, who was standing next to me. I'm so happy that Jane and I are going to be a family. I'm so glad, she said with tears streaming down her face. I laughed when I saw my mother-in-law crying more than me. I have been without a mother for as long as I can remember, and my father died of illness right after I graduated from college. I have no siblings, so I have no one I can call family. I was so happy not only to be married, but also to be a family with my husband and mother-in-law, whom I love very much. Soon, I started living with my husband and mother-in-law. My father-in-law apparently passed away a few years ago due to illness. My mother-in-law quit her job to take care of my father-in-law and now works part-time at a shopping center several times a week. I had only met my mother-in-law outside the house, so I discovered many new things about her when I started living with her. First of all, she is a very good cook. She is very skilled and makes dishes every day that are restaurant quality. She told me that her hobby is to go to many good restaurants and study cooking every day. Another thing is that she lives a very healthy lifestyle. She gets up early in the morning to go running, stretches carefully every night, and go to bed at 10 p.m. I thought my mother-in-law's usefulness came from her daily efforts. I have always loved my mother-in-law, but living with her every day has taught me a lot about what I need to learn from her. I've become a better cook, and although not as good as my mother-in-law, I've unknowingly lost a lot of weight that I hadn't lost in a long time because of my healthy lifestyle. Since we got married, a lot of great things have happened. I'm so happy every day. I have nothing but gratitude for my husband and mother-in-law. My husband and I have been able to be like lovers, just as we were before we got married. He sang to me at home sometimes, and I was happy to hear my husband singing anytime. When I would cook dishes modeled after my mother-in-law's,
Jane, this is amazing. It might taste better than my mom's.
he would compliment me like so. No way, your mom is the one who taught me. When I say this, no, this is your skill. You've got a good sense for cooking, my mother-in-law would say as she laughs. 3 years into our marriage, we were still happy. We never had any fights, and we lived a peaceful life. One day, however, the atmosphere in the home changed when my sister-in-law suddenly returned home. My sister-in-law, Amelia, is 5 years older than my husband. I couldn't believe that she was family with my always cheerful mother-in-law and husband, since she had an overbearing personality. We invited her to our wedding, but she refused. So this was the first time I met her. She had been married and a housewife, but she was divorced and had suddenly returned home. She did not tell my mother-in-law and my husband in advance about it, and they were surprised to see her. I'm going to live here from today. Would you clean up my room? My sister-in-law said coldly to me as I was about to greet her. I was off work that day, so I did as my sister-in-law told me and cleaned up her room, which was in a state of storage. My husband and mother-in-law said they would talk to my sister-in-law. For the first time since we got married, there was a sense of discomfort in the home. As I was cleaning up, I was listening to the conversation. I don't mind you living here, but you have to work and put money in the house. Don't cause trouble for Jane, my mother-in-law said. I know that. Mom, you're always so annoying, my sister-in-law retorts.
Sis, don't talk like that. If you're going to live here, you should let us know in advance. If you can keep your promises, I will have you leave, my husband said in a strong tone. Yeah, whatever. Mike, you're always on Mom's side.
My sister-in-law replied. I had never seen my husband speak in such a strong tone. My mother-in-law's usual smile disappeared, and she looked doubtful. I didn't say anything after hearing this conversation, but I was worried about the days to come. After that, my life changed drastically. My sister-in-law began to give me a hard time. When I came home from work, "Hey, I'm hungry. You're a wife, right? When you come home, make dinner quickly." She would tell me before I even have time to put away my bags. When I quickly began to make dinner, my mother-in-law came home and asked me, "Jane, what's wrong? You can cook dinner once you change. Mike's not even home yet." She says this to me sounding worried. I couldn't say that Amelia told me to do this, so I was feeling troubled. "I told her to do it. She's a wife, so it's natural for her to do this. Mom, you're being too easy on her." My sister-in-law said without a trace of apology, "What's natural? If you ask me, it's only natural that you, who isn't working yet, should be the one to cook. Are you looking for a job in the first place?" When she says this, Amelia replies, "There's no good job out there, so it can't be helped. You are always taking the wife's side rather than mine." She started talking selfishly like a child, and the two of them started arguing. I felt awkward, but I could only concentrate on making dinner in silence. My husband came home and saw my mother-in-law and sister-in-law arguing.
Hey, what's going on? Amelia, did you say something selfish again?"
Amelia replies, "Why is it my fault? You didn't even listen to my side of the story. In the first place, that wife of yours." And she pointed at me. "Jane is not to blame. Stop blaming others." And then the arguing continues.
"I get it now. Both of you stop it. The food Jane cooked is getting cold. Let's eat dinner."
And my husband calms them both down. I felt bad because I was the one who started it. I'm glad my mother-in-law is protective of me, but that makes my sister-in-law angry. I didn't know how to behave properly anymore. After my sister-in-law went back to her room, "Jane, I'm really sorry. If she says anything to you, you tell me right away."
"Jane, I'm really sorry. My sister has always been like that,"
they told me. After that, my sister-in-law would give me a hard time, and there were many times when my mother-in-law would defend me, and they would end up arguing. Each time, my sister-in-law would say, "I can't believe you take the wife's side instead of your own daughter's." I think my mother-in-law is not only taking my side, but she is angry with my sister-in-law because she is the cause of the problem. But it hurt to hear her say that. And when the two of them argue, my husband gets angry too. It got to the point where there would be a fight at least once a day. My sister-in-law says she's looking for a job, but there's no sign of her starting to work at all. She does not do any housework and spends most of the day in bed or on the couch looking at her phone. My mother-in-law, who used to smile and look so young every day, seems to have aged a little since my sister-in-law came back. I wonder if she gets tired of arguing with her. My husband has stopped singing at home. He hasn't performed at any live concert recently. It seems that the happy days we used to have just a few months ago were just a dream. A few days later, while I was at work, I received a phone call from my husband. My mother-in-law had fallen from the balcony and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Since we live on the 5th floor, I was so worried about my mother-in-law that I left work early and headed for the hospital. However, By the time I arrived at the hospital, my mother-in-law had already passed away. The atmosphere in our home had been bad recently, and I didn't have as many chances to enjoy talking with my mother-in-law as I used to. I couldn't stop crying for a long time, thinking that there were so many things I wanted to talk about and do with her. My sister-in-law was at home when my mother-in-law fell off the balcony. I wondered for a moment, could it have been my sister-in-law? But I tried not to think about it, because even though we weren't close, I knew she wouldn't go that far. According to my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law was hanging the laundry on the balcony. My sister-in-law said that she heard a loud noise as she was lounging around as usual, and when she went to the balcony, she couldn't see my mother-in-law and called the police. My sister-in-law was crying as she spoke. We then made arrangements for the wake and funeral. My husband made most of the arrangements, but the time passed in a flurry as we dealt with many relatives and acquaintances of my mother-in-law. Surprisingly, my sister-in-law was also very cooperative and did a lot of work. I decided to concentrate on sending my mother-in-law on her way during the funeral. At the end of the funeral, I said goodbye to my mother-in-law in the casket. As I recalled everything that had happened to my mother-in-law from the day I met her until now, I was filled with many thoughts and feelings. With tears streaming down my face, I took my mother-in-law's hand for the last time and found a small piece of paper in her hand. When I took it out, it looked like a torn piece of a notepad. Curious, I looked inside the note and was astonished. I couldn't stop shaking at the sight of the dreadful note and ran out of the room. People in the hall were looking at me with a buzz. As I was outside crying and shaking, my husband came after me.
What happened? What are you doing in the middle of a funeral?
My husband seemed angry. Of course he would be. I just ran out in the middle of a funeral. With trembling hands, I showed him the note. This is bad. Look at this note. The note in my mother-in-law's hand read, It's Mom's fault for always taking the wife's side. If you had taken my side, none of this would have happened. Your favorite wife will be next. And it was written in my sister-in-law's handwriting. It was like she was saying she did it. It's not conclusive evidence, but it might be something. Just imagining how she must have felt writing such a note was terrifying. I was afraid to even look at my sister-in-law's face. All I could do was run away. But,
What the hell is this? I'm going to go talk to the people in the hall, so wait here.
my husband couldn't hide his emotions, but he knew he had to be firm, and he handled it calmly.
Jane, it's okay. I'm with you. We'll get the police to do something about it. It's better for Mom.
My husband said, hugging me as I trembled. My husband told the people in the hall what had happened, showed them the note, and they called the police. I waited there shaking. My sister-in-law came outside and asked me, What's going on? Don't you think it's disrespectful to my mother to be flapping around during a funeral? Why are you outside? You're insane. Then my husband said,
Shut up and sit inside.
He said loudly. My sister-in-law returned to the hall with a strange look on her face. I guess she didn't think we had seen her note. The attendee also looked at us strangely, but the funeral proceeded to the end, and when they finished putting my mother-in-law in the hearse, the police arrived and took my sister-in-law to the police station. My sister-in-law said, I don't understand. Why should I go to the police? What did I do? She was in a rage the whole time. My husband and I looked at her coldly as she was being taken away by the police. The people in attendance were in a state of confusion, but they went straight to the crematorium. That was the last time I saw my sister-in-law. The house was searched again, and my sister-in-law confessed to the crime, and she was arrested later that day. I heard her crying like a child at the police station, saying she hated her mother, who wouldn't take her side. They found sleeping pills in her room, which Amelia mixed into my mother-in-law's drink, and then instructed her to dry the laundry. While drying the laundry, my sister-in-law apparently pushed my drowsy mother-in-law on her back. She really only meant to injure her, but she died, partly because of the concrete underneath. When I heard the police story, I was filled with fear and anger. I really can't forgive her. She's a selfish woman. I was terrified that my sister-in-law would come home until I got the call that she was under arrest. When the news of her arrest came, my husband and I were relieved. Then a criminal trial took place, and my sister-in-law was found guilty. She was also thinking of rebelling against me, though the charges were more serious, and she was going to jail for more than 10 years. I really wish the charges were more serious, but it's the court's decision, so I guess it's inevitable. My husband handled all the criminal trials. Now that the investigation was over, I laid my hands firmly on my mother-in-law's grave and apologized over and over in my heart. I'm still scared to this day that if I hadn't found the note then, maybe I would have been next. My husband and I told each other's company about the situation, filed moving papers, and moved to another part of the country, so that we wouldn't have to face my sister-in-law who came out of prison one day. I don't think she will ever find out where we move. We decided to build my mother-in-law's grave in the place where we moved. We started a new life in a new place without changing our jobs. To be honest, I haven't completely recovered. There are days when I remember my mother-in-law and cry. Still, my husband and I decided to look forward to life little by little. Whenever I feel down, my husband sings to me. My husband happily tells me that he hopes he can form a band again in a new town. On the other hand, when my husband is down, I cook a dish that my mother-in-law taught me and eat it with him. In this way, we encouraged each other and gradually moved forward. Before going to work in the morning and before going to bed at night, my husband and I always offer incense and pray at my mother-in-law's altar. When I say I'm off when I got to work, I think I hear my mother-in-law's voice.
Did I just hear my mom say stay safe?
Maybe my husband can hear my mother-in-law's voice too. My mother-in-law is no longer here, but she will always be someone I look up to, just as she always has been. Today, I'm cooking something she taught me how to make.